Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm calling to order the July 17th, 2024 regular meeting of the Local Agency Formation Commission at 2:30 p.m. We are meeting in the San Mateo County Board of Supervisors chambers and on Zoom for the public. At this point, the clerk will explain how both written and public comments can be made by attendees of this meeting.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For members of the public, the instructions on how to participate in today's meeting may be found on the published agenda. These instructions provide information on how to submit written comment and how to participate on Zoom.
Thank you. Okay, we'll proceed with item number 1, which is the roll call.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Commissioner Slocum?
Here.
Commissioner Bigstick?
Present.
Commissioner Draper?
Here.
Commissioner Mueller?
Here.
Commissioner Rohrbach?
Here.
Commissioner Chang Karali?
Present.
Chair Martin?
Here.
Thank you, Chair. You have quorum.
Okay, public comments. We will now move on to item 2 and open public comment for items not on the agenda and consent agenda. Please note that at LAFCo meetings, we are a limited public forum, and all public comment must relate to something that is within the subject matter jurisdiction of the board. If comments do not relate to the subject matter jurisdiction of the board, we will stop the comment and move on to the next speaker. The county attorney will assist in identifying comments that are not related to the subject matter jurisdiction of the board. Clerk?
Thank you, Madam Chair. We did not receive any written comments for items not on the agenda, and currently no speakers on Zoom or chambers at this time.
All right. Okay. No one in the audience? All right. Thank you. As such, we will close the public comment menu for items not on the agenda. The next item, which is item 3, is the consent calendar, consent agenda. We have 4 items. Are there any commissioners that wish to remove one of these for discussion? Nothing? Okay. Do I have a motion to accept the consent agenda?
I move to approve consent.
Thank you.
Second.
Would you call the roll, please?
Thank you. That was a motion by Commissioner Bigstick, seconded by Commissioner Rohrbach. Commissioner Slocum?
Yes.
Oh, Commissioner Bigstick?
Aye.
Commissioner Draper?
Yes.
Commissioner Mueller?
Yes.
Commissioner Rohrbach?
Yes.
Commissioner Chang Karali?
Aye.
Chair Martin?
Yes.
Thank you, Chair.
I should comment that the executive director is not here today in person. My understanding is he is going to join us by Zoom. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Let's move along to item number 4. Certification of protest hearing results for LAFCo file 2209. Proposal to establish the East Palo Alto Sanitary District as a subsidiary district of the city of East Palo Alto.
And thank you, Chair Martin. Yes, I am joining remotely today. I'm unfortunately under the weather and don't want to get anybody else sick, so I am going to participate remotely. For item number 4, on November 15, 2023, LAFCo Commission voted unanimously 6-0 to adopt resolution number 1312, approving the city of East Palo Alto's proposal to establish the East Palo Alto Sanitary District, EPASD, as a subsidiary district of the city, subject to the terms and conditions included in that resolution and the completion of the conducting authority proceedings. So that also includes the protest proceedings. The protest proceedings for this file started on February 12th, 2024. It was open for 100 days. A protest hearing was held on May 22nd, 2024 at the City of East Palo Alto Council Chambers and was publicly known as pursuant to the relevant government code sections, including newspaper notifications in the San Mateo County Times, the Palo Alto Daily Post, and the Almanac. Protest forms were collected from by LAFCo staff via mail and in person from February 12th until the close of the protest hearing at 2:59 p.m. on May 22nd. As a reminder for the protest thresholds, if there's a certain amount of protest received, it could either terminate proceedings, require an election, or move the change of organization without an election. So if there are 50% or more registered voters or landowners, that would then terminate the proceedings if that written protest threshold is met. If it's 25% and less than 50% registered voters or landowners, then that would be subject to the confirmation of the voters through an election. Or if protest has been filed by less than 25% of the registered voters in the affected territory and less than 25% of the landowners who own at least 25% of the assessed land value, then it is ordered without an election. And so the executive officer has caused the protest forms that we have received to be compared against the current equalized assessment roll maintained by the county assessors and the current registrars of voters roll maintained by the county elections office. All protest forms were evaluated pursuant to the relevant government code sections. The result of the protest hearings is shown on this table, and I'll talk through them here in a moment. Again, as I mentioned, there are two types of protests that can be received: registered voters and landowners. For registered voters, there are 9,672 registered voters within the affected area, and that is within the district boundaries of EPASD. There were 1,012 facially valid protests submitted during the protest period, which equates to 10.46% of the total registered voters in the affected area, which is below the protest threshold of 25%. There were also 57 facially deficient protest forms submitted. Protest forms that were only identified as facially deficient as if there was no date affixed to the forms on when the protest form was completed. The date affixed was outside of the protest period. There was no signature affixed to the form, or the person signing the form was either not a registered voter or a landowner in the affected area, depending on the type of protest submitted. For landowners, there are two parts of the equation. There's both total number of landowners and then the assessed value. For total number of landowners within the affected area, that equates to 6,567 landowners. So if a parcel is owned in joint tenancy or joint common, so if there are second or third owners in that assessor's data, each person or entity is counted as a separate owner. If a person or entity owned multiple parcels for which they would be considered an owner, they would also be considered separate for each individual parcel. So while there are 4,287 parcels within the affected area, there are more owners than parcels. There are 6,567 total landowners and owners within the area. For the protests, there were 936 facially valid protests submitted during the protest period, which equals 14.25%, again, and is below the protest threshold of 25%. In the total assessed land value in the area is $2,264,295,264. The assessed value of the 936 protests received was $180,654,895, which equals 7.98% of the total assessed value in the area, and that is below the 25% threshold. The assessed value of parcels owned in joint tenancy or tenancy in common is required to be determined on a proportional basis as required by the appropriate government's code section. So if you have a property owner that had two owners, and one person submitted a valid protest, the other person did not, that property would be value would be half of that assessed value is being put towards the protest value. As the number and value of the protest met neither the 50% threshold for terminating the proceedings nor the 25% threshold for requiring an election, the commission is under a mandatory duty to approve the change of organization. There are no additional actions required to be taken by the commission to establish the East Palo Alto Sanitary District as a subsidiary district of the city of East Palo Alto, as approved by the LAFCo Commission on November 15, 2023, and Resolution 1312. The City of East Palo Alto City Council will be voting, or has voted at this time, on a matter related to a contract with the West Bay Sanitary District and a framework for an advisory body at their meeting last night on July 16th. The tentative date for change in governance for EPASD is August 1st, if all the required conditions of approval are met. If there is some time for the city that they need to complete those conditions of approval, it would be the effective date of the next month. So if they weren't able to complete it in this month, and we recorded the change of organization in August, the effective date would then be September, and so forth. There was a minor non-substantive edit to the resolution, and the correct copy should be on the dais for each commissioners. The recommendation to the commission is to open the public hearing, accept public comment, and then approve San Mateo LAFCo Resolution 1325, making determinations and ordering the establishment of the East Palo Alto Sanitary District as a subsidiary district of the city of East Palo Alto without an election, subject to the terms and conditions of LAFCo Resolution 1312. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Rob. Do any of the commissioners have a question? Anne has a question. Okay.
I'm looking at the resolution, and the first whereas says on November 10, 2022, the city of East Palo Alto submitted a proposal application to establish. And so we're coming up on about 2 years of consideration, and the LAFCO has held multiple hearings on this, both in this chamber and in East Palo Alto. But I recall that there were actions or hearings before that. And I was wondering if you could just give a brief history that precedes that actual application.
Certainly. So in November of 2022, the city did submit an application. But as you had mentioned prior to that, over the course of in 2021 and in 2022, the LAFCo Commission conducted a municipal service review for both the city of East Palo Alto, the West Bay Sanitary District, and the East Palo Alto Sanitary District. And we had a discussion on both the contracts that we were going to have for that MSR and reasons why we were going to have that MSR kind of at a more expedited pace and with a consultant, because LAFCO had heard concerns from both the city and from her developers about potential impacts to development projects that are occurring within the city of East Palo Alto related to the East Palo Alto Sanitary District, and some of the concerns that they had about the capacity of the sanitary district to provide service to those new projects. So LAFCO conducted an MSR. We had a number of public hearings on that particular topic, and then ultimately the commission approved that MSR with a number of recommendations, including one suggesting that the city then look at whether it was appropriate to submit an application to establish EPASD as a subsidiary district of the city. So we had a number of, but we also included in that district, in the MSR, recommendations about looking at capital improvement programs for the sanitary district, looking at how the rate structures can be evaluated, looking at other finances. So we did it was quite a deep dive into both the city and the sanitary district about some of their issues that they were addressing. So it wasn't solely focused on subsidiary districts. It was looking at kind of the holistic picture of both the city and the sanitary district and some of the issues that they were facing.
So LAFCO started looking at this around in 2021 sometime.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Do any of the?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I made sure to highlight this because I wanted to be crystal clear. There's the line in the staff report reads, as the number and value of protests met neither the 50% threshold for terminating the proceedings, or the 25% thresholds for requiring an election. And it seemed like if the facially deficient forms were to be applied, the threshold still wouldn't be reached. The commission is under a mandatory statutory duty to approve the change of organization. You just verify for me that that is correct.
That is correct. The government code section, when it talks about validating protest forms and the amount, is not really a discretionary action. It's more kind of a mechanical action, just looking at the numbers. And if it's below that threshold, the commission is under a duty to certify it in that way.
I'm noticing there are no alternative recommended actions. I take from that phrase that there are no other alternatives LAFCo can take today. Am I correct in that? Maybe that's one for city attorney or for county council.
Correct. I was wondering if Rob wanted to jump on that
Yeah, I
first.
didn't know. Sorry, Tim.
No worries. When we're at this stage of a LAFCO proceeding, you're acting as a conducting authority to the protest and or election process. So the process that we're following is one where, having consulted the landowners and registered voters of the district about the level of protest they have to the proposed action from November, we're merely performing a ministerial act of finding that the protest numbers did not meet the thresholds.
Thank you very much.
Commissioner Bigster, thank you very much for asking that question just prior to our voting on this. I appreciate it being part of the record. Are there any other comments or questions from the commission? Okay, we will now proceed with the public comment period for this item 4. Do we have members on Zoom and or in the chamber that wish to speak?
Thank you, Madam Chair. We have one on Zoom with Ms. Joan Cox. Ms. Cox will have 2 minutes.
She might be on mute.
Commissioners, can you hear me?
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, commissioners. I am Joan Cox, Special Counsel for the East Palo Alto Sanitary District. The East Palo Alto Sanitary District requests that SM LAFCo delay the effective date for LAFCo Resolution 1312 to September 1, 2024. LAFCo Resolution 1312 presently calls for the commission to issue a certificate of completion immediately after the protest hearing, which would be today, and states that the reorganization will become effective on the first day of the following month, or August 1, 2024. While the commission has a duty to confirm the outcome of the protest hearing, the district is not statutorily required to immediately carry out the reorganization. To that point, Executive Director Rob Bartoli stated today in his staff report to you that it may already take the commission and the city that long to complete the tasks required to effect the reorganization. San Mateo LAFCo and the city are well aware that the district has filed a motion for judgment in connection with its petition for writ of mandate, seeking judicial review of San Mateo LAFCo's decision to adopt the city's proposal to designate the East Palo Alto Sanitary District as a subsidiary district of the city of East Palo Alto. The motion is presently scheduled for hearing on August 16, 2024. The action recommended by staff would make the effective date of the reorganization August 1, 2024, before the district's motion can be heard on its merits. This is unfair to ratepayers and landowners who protested the commission's decision. The district filed a motion for preliminary injunction to delay the effective date for Resolution 1312 to a date after the district's motion could be heard, and proposed an expedited briefing schedule that was denied. Delaying the effective date of the reorganization by 30 days or less will not result in any appreciable harm to SM LAFCo or the city, but will afford the district an opportunity to have its motion heard on its merits. We urge the commission to adopt a fair and transparent process that does not elevate procedure over substance and allows the district's and its residents' voices to be heard. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And we have one more speaker, Mr. Ruben Abrika.
Thank you, Ruben Abrika, council member in East Palo Alto. I'm speaking as an individual, although I have a long history in East Palo Alto. And I want to just make a couple of comments. One is on the process that LAFCo has followed. And I'm talking about the last 40 years. I appreciate that LAFCO has been very thorough, very fair, and unlike some other people have said that you're biased and prejudiced, I did not find that at all. And I have a document here that goes back to 1981 from LAFCO. And during that time, we were in a process to try to get LAFCO to, allow us an alternative to be a city. And one of the alternatives there, from way back there, spoke about consolidating services as the best way to run a city. So we have been trying ever since, and I can attest, even in the last 5 years, we have tried to work with the sanitary district in every which way we could, try to get grants together, try to do joint, capital improvements, and we have always been rejected. And now the story is running its course. But I want to assure you that as a city, as one council member and as a city, we're committed to working closely with the West Bay Sanitary District to provide professional services, to make sure that there's representation. But I just want to thank you for that, because this process became a little, at times, racialized. It became prejudiced. It became very unprofessional. And I certainly, for one person, did not appreciate that. And they spent, I don't know how much money on so many lawyers and professionals when we could have worked together on that. But you know what? We can still work together because we're one community there. So thank you very much for all your service. I just want to quickly read the name of your predecessors way back there. Some of you probably know. John Lindsay, Malcolm Dudley, Arthur Laporte, Arlen Gregorio, John Ward. The alternates were Mary Henderson, Janine Hodge, and Bill Schumer. So there's a history of great professionalism. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
I'm Kelly Ferguson. Most of you know me from my 16 years of volunteer public service on 15 boards and commissions at the state, regional, county, and local level, including as mayor of Menlo Park. My comments are timed at 4 minutes. I speak to you today as a 27-year resident and ratepayer of the East Palo Alto Sanitary District, and the newly appointed vice president of the East Palo Alto Sanitary District Board of Directors. My professional background is as a registered civil engineer with a PhD and master's from Stanford, with a specialty in infrastructure planning and management, and a BS in land use management. Professionally, I work with countless public agencies and special districts. During my onboarding over the past month, I have studied thousands of pages of documents and studies. Without a doubt, East Palo Alto Sanitary District is a very well-run district with a well-reasoned capital improvement plan supported by extensive pipe condition reports and implementation plans. Likewise, developer connection fees are well supported, backed by data and facts. The district is doing its job to make sure developers pay their fair share. You walk around East Palo Alto today, it's booming with new housing development. It is only a handful of snowflake developers asking for special treatment and for the city of and for the city of East Palo Alto to do this takeover. It is no secret. The sewer district is debt-free and has 25 million in reserves. The city council will bond 100 million against our properties, against the ratepayers to subsidize upsizing for developer profits, quadrupling our rates and forcing fixed income seniors out of their home and out of the community.
Sorry to interrupt. I just want.
Never in my years of service
Could
have
we
I
get-
seen such an egregious process as this LAFCo and City of East Palo Alto takeover of the district.
Could we?
You
could
are
we
taking away the
ask you
rights
to
of
pause? Can we ask you to pause for just a second?
I will pause.
You indicated that you have a 4-minute right to speak. By what virtue do you have that?
You're the chair. You have the authority, or you have the
Discretion?
Yes.
I did not understand that. And when you said it, I kind of looked to my colleagues to see if anyone knew anything. No one did. I think it'd be appropriate that we negotiate that at 3 minutes.
I have prepared remarks. My rights as a taxpayer are being stripped from me and my fellow constituents. I asked to be heard.
Go ahead.
Never
more
in my years
minutes,
of
2 more
service have I
minutes.
seen such an egregious process as this LAFCO and East Palo Alto takeover of the district. You are taking away the rights of thousands of voters to have a say and hold elected officials accountable for the raising of their sewer rates. The current district has held the rates steady for years. The City of East Palo Alto staff admit in an email they're poised to immediately double the rates. In this day and age where residents are mailed notices from public agencies about everything from pottery classes to building permits and zoning changes, and certainly by law, Prop 218 utility rate increases, neither LAFCo nor the City of East Palo Alto bothered to mail a notice to district residents to tell them of the protest letter period. This is the sneakiest and most secretive process I have ever seen in 16 years of public service. It is egregious, and every LAFCO board member on the dais should be ashamed of letting this happen. The LAFCO counting process is impossible to understand. You've read the staff report and you heard the presentation. Only a LAFCO attorney could possibly understand it. No matter how many thousands of letters the residents would collect, LAFCO would find a way for them not to qualify. The volunteers reach out time and again to LAFCO, and they muddied the response. They had no idea how many letters to get, and this very inequitable counting process that discounts residents that have lived there the longest. The LAFCO process forces ordinary residents to educate the public about their heretofore well-run district that has never given them any problems and run a protest letter campaign from scratch. They did an amazing job to get the thousands of protest letters they did, but it was doomed without the ability to hire lawyers out of their own pockets while they're raising families and working jobs, without the ability to hire lawyers as crafty as the LAFCO lawyers.
You've now exceeded the 4 minutes you
I have one
required.
more paragraph. The public sees this for what it is, harming the residents, a greedy money grab, stealing from us a $25 million reserve that we've paid, indebting us to bonds issued on our properties for decades to come, and giving handouts on our backs to developers who are already making hundreds of millions in profits. Please pause this terrible, harmful freight train, this railroading, and reconsider your actions based on the facts and harm to real people, not politics. Please delay the date of that the certificate becomes active to September 1. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. There are no more.
I appreciate that, but this is not a new issue. This has been on our agendas for 4 years. And I think we need to move along.
Thank you.
Do you have any
very much.
objections from your board? Okay. Are there any other speakers for the East Palo Alto Sanitary District? Okay. Discussion. Rich.
Mr. Fox, so Ms. Cox, who I think is the attorney for the district, indicated that they filed an injunction or they sought an injunction to go ahead and delay the final action being implemented. Are you aware of that when they filed that injunction?
Yes.
And do you know what the order said, why the injunction was denied?
Yes.
And why was it denied?
It was denied because the judge found that the district in its moving papers had failed to meet the legal standard for the issuance of injunctive relief.
And was that because injunctions can be denied for different reasons? Sometimes they're not denied because the judge will say the likelihood that they'll prevail on their motion isn't met. Did that happen in this case, or did the judge go into any explanation further than they hadn't met the standard?
The order denying the preliminary injunction motion was relatively brief. The judge did touch upon likelihood of success on the merits and found that that standard had not been met by the moving papers. In addition, the judge found that the district had not shown that it would suffer any injury from the LAFCo process continuing without having to be stopped by a judicial order. So the judge found that there was no basis for the court to order the LAFCo to pause or forestall the order of operations that have been established by the November resolution adopted by LAFCo.
Okay. That's so that the likelihood of success on the merits, the judge did look at that issue and rule on it.
It was among the items addressed in the 1-paragraph order denying the preliminary injunction.
Thank you.
Just bring up the document. That's not an accurate portrayal. The judge said there was a chance to prevail on the merits.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Public comment period has been closed. Please be seated.
Please provide that document to the board so they can see the true words of the judge.
I'll have some order in here, please. Are there any other comments or any other discussion with regard?
I did have one other follow-up question.
Okay, go ahead, Ray.
But I did want to ask, and candidly, I had this question written down prior to public comment, so I want to make everyone clear it's not influenced by public comment, but I was going to ask, is it possible to certify today, but delay the action until after the legal hearing?
Rob, are you?
The final determination till after the legal hearing?
Can you answer that?
I can. The executive officer is proceeding on the basis of the direction given by the LAFCo by its November resolution, which said that a number of things should happen in order for the creation of the subsidiary district to become effectual. It is incorrect to say that it happens immediately after the protest hearing, as you heard in public comment. That is an incorrect statement. Okay. What it says basically is that after the conclusion of the conducting authority proceedings, including the protest hearing, which now is being concluded, and fulfillment of all of the conditions established by the LAFCo in the November resolution. And so what the executive officer reported earlier was that we do not have information today about whether all of those conditions have been met, because there were a series of things that the city needed to button down before the effective date occurs. So at the moment, the LAFCo has directed the executive officer to to do the things that are necessary to make the creation of the subsidiary district effective on the first day of the month following the fulfillment of all of those conditions. And that's by virtue of the decision that the commission made in November. If you wish to give a different direction, it is within your power to do so.
So if we wanted to say we wanted to add one item and that we wait until the conclusion of the legal proceeding, we could do that. Right. So I'll just share with my colleagues, I am sensitive, and I was prior again to public comment, which I don't think actually helped. I actually was sensitive to the fact, and I've always been sensitive to the fact that individuals who are seeking their legal remedy being given the opportunity to finish seeking their legal remedy. And so what my question is, if it takes effect, if our LAFCo proceeding after certification takes effect prior to that court hearing, is that going to prejudice the court hearing?
Can I chime in just so I have the dates clear? So that, because we'd have to vote today.
We would vote today to certify, but the question is, when is it actually finalized? And right now, my understanding from Mr. Fox is that finalization will be on the first day of the month after the executive officer reaches the determination that all the obligations have been fulfilled under the November action by the board, resolution by the board. And so my question is, can that date be altered to when the legal proceeding has finished?
So the legal proceeding, just so I know, starts August 16th. Is that correct? That's what I heard.
That's when the hearing is, but the likelihood of the merits, according to
Right.
Mr. Fox, is that it's not going, it may not, the likelihood of that they'll actually be found successful on the merits is small. But at the same token, I don't want to, I frankly always have a problem with exhausting someone's remedies for them.
Yeah, I'm just trying to get the dates in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
The writ petition that we're talking about was filed in March. The preliminary injunction motion was filed in May. The preliminary injunction was denied in late June. At the moment, the district has filed a notice of appeal, appealing the denial of the preliminary injunction to the Court of Appeal. I am not prepared to recommend that the LAFCo adopt language or give direction to the executive officer that says that the effective date is after exhaustion of the legal remedies.
But after the appeal is denied, or after the appeal is heard.
As the commission knows,
They may not take the issue on appeal at all.
More importantly, the legal remedies for stopping another public agency from doing its job are subject to legal standards that the court applies. So the district applied to the court for a preliminary injunction, asking that the court direct the LAFCo to stop doing what it was doing. And the court declined to do so on the basis of the briefing that we filed, showing that that would be an undue interference in the LAFCO's ordinary process. So it is still available to the district to seek a judicial remedy that has the Court of Appeal or the trial court do something further to stop what the LAFCO is doing. I do not recommend that you change the language to interfere with that process. But I understand the question and what forms it. It's just that the court was looking at whether or not it had before it papers that met the legal standard for interfering in a legislative proceeding, and it declined to do so.
I understand the court decided that. The question is the legislative body, can it make its own determination to do so? And that's us. So I understand the court looked at it and decided it didn't want to, but now we are the legislative body and can make that decision. And so my question again is there going to be prejudice to them if we don't? Or is there, what is their schedule? Because they're asking for something until, they're asking us only to delay apparently until September 1st. And so the question is, what is the prejudice to either to us or to them in doing that?
It's difficult for me to answer that question without revealing potentially attorney-client privileged information that was on the agenda for today for discussion in closed session.
All right, well, then what I would suggest, what I would then move is, I mean, it depends upon where my colleagues are. If my colleagues want to entertain what I'm talking about, then what I would say is we would go ahead and table this until after closed session. If people don't want to entertain it, then just move forward with the motion.
I will support that, Ray. Because I have some questions too. You mean closed session?
You've held the public hearing required by law. We can hold the closed session at the time provided by the agenda and reconvene after closed session and take the item back up.
All right.
So we're going to close session at this time.
No, we're gonna do it at the end of the agenda.
All right.
Okay, so this item is tabled.
All right.
Okay, item number 5. Consideration of LAFCo file number 2402, proposed annexation of 244 Club Drive, unincorporated San Mateo, to the city of San Carlos.
Thank you, Chair Martin. So the LAFCo has received a proposal submitted by a landowner petition requesting the annexation of 244 Club Drive to the city of San Carlos. This property is currently developed with a single-family residence and is served by an on-site septic system for sewer. The property owner has stated that the septic system, she has concerns that the septic system will fail in the future, and because of that reason is requesting annexation to the city of San Carlos to allow for sewer service from the city. The city of San Carlos has approved both the pre-zoning of the parcel, and both the city and the county have approved the required property tax exchange. The proposal has 100% landowner consent, and waiver of the conducting authority proceedings is also requested. Commission approval for the overall proposal is also recommended. Shown here, this is the parcel shown in orange. You can see that there are boundaries of the city that kind of cut in and out on Club Drive. Currently, Club Drive itself is already within the city. 244 Club house was developed with a single family house in 1936. It is unincorporated currently, but it's within the sphere of influence of the city of San Carlos, and it's in an established single family neighborhood, and it abuts the city boundary on 3 sides of the existing property. It is one of 5 properties on Club Drive that are unincorporated. On the south side of Club, there are 3 unincorporated developed parcels and many more unincorporated parcels that are within the sphere of influence of San Carlos, but may not be developed in the near future due to topography, lot size, and lack of access. No change in the service delivery pattern will occur for water, as the property is already receiving water from Cal Water. An annexation to the city will result in the transfer of services for sewer, police, fire, parks and recreation, and streetlights. And the property tax transfer accordingly for those services. There's a portion coming from the county San Mateo to the city. And right now the parcel is within the county structural fire, would be removed from county fire, and 100% share of county fire would then be transferred to the city of San Carlos. Again, both the city of San Carlos and the county of San Mateo have adopted resolutions for that property tax transfer. Factors for review. The impact of the growth of the area is minimal based on that the parcel is already developed with single family residents. There'll be minimal impact to service demand and fiscal ability of the city to provide those new services. And the action is also consistent with city and county general plan. The proposal to annex the property will allow the city of San Carlos to more efficiently provide service to the residents with public services. The city now provides will provide sewer service to the property, and the annexation will allow the provision of other municipal services such as fire and police to the property itself as well. The proposal conforms to LAFCo and county general plan policies that encourage annexation of the areas within spheres of influence. And I had mentioned previously, the parcel is already adjacent to the city on 3 sides. The proposal is consistent with both the city and county general plan policies on encouraging annexations within the spheres. No development is proposed with the exception of the removal and destruction of the existing septic system on site and the connection to the existing sewer, to a new sewer system. So the proposal is consistent with the sphere of influence for both the city and all special districts, general plans of the county and city, and the service delivery patterns within the area. And staff recommends that the commission approve the proposal by taking the following actions. By resolution approved file 24-02, proposal of annexation of 244 Club, Drive, unincorporated San Mateo County, the city of San Carlos, and direct the executive officer to waive the conducting authority proceedings. And if you have to answer any questions.
Questions? I have a couple questions. This address is very familiar to me. Has this homeowner petitioned us in the past, do you recall?
And no, as we have had a recent annexation that's still has not been completed at 252 Club. But no, we have not had action on 244 Club Drive in the past.
The other things that we have like this on the agenda, consent calendar, why is there a different system?
Why is it all non-consent? Typically what we do for city annexations, we just like to bring those to the commission because they're a little bit more of a change than our standard either sewer annexations or our outside service agreements, just so for the city, for the purposes of this, explaining a little bit more to the commission. But it could have been non-consent. It's a relatively non-controversial item, and there's no particular reason of why it wasn't on there. It's just for city annexations, we kind of have a history of always having those on our regular agendas.
Well, I guess is it commonplace for something that hasn't failed, she's just concerned that it's going to fail, to be allowed to do this?
So in the circumstances here, the reason of why someone wants to annex is not necessarily the big question for LAFCo. Lots of times they can annex for a variety of reasons. In this case, because of how the size of the property owner's concern is that the septic system has had issues in the past, and that it was only a matter of time before the septic system did actually fail. And on that issue on 252 Club, again, on that, just a neighbor or two away, that then had to involve an emergency outside service connection and then eventually annexation. Because because of the size of the parcels and the topography, there was no other place to put another septic system on that site. So the only option is to connect the sewer.
It's not clear that we are voting on this. Oh, yes, we are, I'm sorry. Do I have a motion to approve this? Change in the same?
I'll move.
Second.
Call roll, please.
Thank you. But Madam Chair, did you want to open public comment?
Do you have anybody?
We have one raised hand on Zoom. It just displays the name as BJ. BJ, you will have 2 minutes. BJ, we can hear you.
No, I am.
We'll get back.
Sorry,
Okay, thank you.
it was a mistake.
Lower hand.
No other.
If you want to talk, you can.
Okay. Okay. We have a motion and a second.
Yes, the first motion was from Commissioner, sorry, could you remind me? Was that Commissioner Rarbeck?
No, Curly Chang, and
Oh,
I second
sorry.
it. Thank you.
Thank you. That was a motion by Commissioner Ken Curley and Commissioner Draper. Thank you. Now take roll. Commissioner Slocum,
Yes.
Commissioner Big Stick,
Aye.
Commissioner Draper,
Yes.
Commissioner Mueller,
Sure, yes.
Commissioner Barba,
Yes.
Commissioner Chen Crowley.
Aye.
Thank you, Chair. Motion carries.
Item number 6. Consideration of the municipal service review circulation draft for the city of Foster City and Estero Municipal Improvement District.
Thank you, Chair Martin. So yes, this is the consideration of a municipal service review draft version for the city of East Foster City and the Estero Municipal Improvement District. This is actually the first MSR for both the city of Foster City and EMID. Just a couple of key topics into our discussion. LAFCo has not identified any issues with the city's budgeting. And the city continues to adopt balanced budgets, but the city is anticipating having to utilize reserve funds in future years to balance its budget due to structural deficit. The city is currently working on a possible revenue measure for business license tax to help the city address that current shortfall. However, as of now, though, the city council hasn't voted on that particular item. And also another key issue is that the city has adopted its housing element and it's looking to increase its housing stock by 13% over the next 8 years. And the city has evaluated potential impacts of both the city and EMID. And while water demand for the proposed development under that housing element time frame would be met, if there was a drought, there would be not sufficient demand or not sufficient supply to be able to meet this. The city and EMID is aware of this issue and is working on implementing policies and programs to address this. The city of Foster City was incorporated as the 19th city in the county of San Mateo in 1971. Prior to this incorporation, special legislation enacted in 1960 was passed to create the Estero Municipal Improvement District, or EMID. EMID was empowered to develop what was then known as Brewers Island. EMID was given broad powers to provide all municipal services except planning, which remained with the county of San Mateo as the area was still unincorporated at the time. Upon incorporation, then EMID became a subsidiary district to the city, and EMID still provides water and wastewater services to Foster City and a portion of the city of San Mateo, the western portion, or the eastern portion of the city of San Mateo that's along that little island stretch there. Upon incorporation, the city of Foster City began receiving revenues available to the cities of California, but it was actually EMID that levied taxes for services. And so when Prop 13 passed, this resulted in EMID receiving the property tax revenues for Foster City, properties within its boundaries, and the city of Foster City receiving other revenues such as motor vehicle and sales tax. And so while there are two distinct governmental entities, with EMID receiving property tax and utility revenues and employing personnel, and the city receiving other revenues, the city of Foster City and EMID are combined for the purposes of service delivery and budget presentation. And the city council of the city of Foster City is a 5-member board and also sits as the governing body of EMID. This is a map showing the existing boundaries and sphere of influence for Foster City. Its boundaries and sphere of influence are coterminous with one another. This map again shows City of Foster City, but also the Estero Municipal Improvement District and its boundaries that are shown in yellow and orange. So they do actually, the district owns 2 or 3 properties that are actually located within the city of San Mateo and are not inside of the city of Foster City. That's the only extent of their boundaries that go out from a ownership standpoint that go outside of the city. But the EMID does service water and sewer connections within this eastern portion of the city of San Mateo. As I had mentioned, while there's water demand for proposed development under its next housing element would be able to be met, and if there was a single or multiple dry years, EMID is expecting that its water demand to exceed its available water supplies. And so the city is working on developing water conservation requirements and or increased water supply that will ensure sufficient water capacity to accommodate its new housing numbers. Those also include the potential use of water demand offset policies requiring new renovation of developments to have net neutral water and the use of recycled water potentially for irrigation. And so one recommendation that LAFCo has for growth and population is to encourage the city and EMIZ to work in this area to meet the needs for future development within the city. For disadvantaged and unincorporated communities, the cities and EMID's sphere of influence and municipal boundaries are contiguous and there's no unincorporated areas within them. Regarding capacity and adequacy of public services, LAFCo is not aware of any deficiencies in agency capacity to meet existing service needs, for which the city does not have a plan in place to resolve. The city and EMID anticipate to meet most service demands for the foreseeable growth and with project infrastructure improvements and other mitigation measures. One recommendation that LAFCo does have in this area was that this EMID update its urban water management plan, which was last updated in 2021 to align better with the projections for their housing element. For fiscal ability determinations and recommendations for fiscal years 23 through 27, the city is currently projecting to utilize reserve funds to maintain a balanced budget due to structural deficit. The city does have sufficient reserves to cover these additional costs, but they are looking at ways to then have different revenue measures come online, including a business license tax to address these current structural deficits. And they're largely driven from both increased pension and labor costs and the potential loss or reduction that they're accounting for related to vehicle license funds in the future. LAFCo staff has not identified any issues with the city's or EMID's budget practices. The city and EMID prepare an annual operating and capital improvement plan and a very detailed budget for each upcoming fiscal year that gets adopted at a notice public hearing before June 30th. For shared services, the city and EMID already partner with several agencies to share resources and reduce costs. LAFCo has not identified any other opportunities that the city could engage within. For accountability, structure, and efficiencies, the city of Foster City and EMID complies with disclosure laws and Brown Act requirements. They have well-publicized meetings, well-publicized and detailed documents for both budgets and financial documents. And while highly detailed, the budget documents could be enhanced by simplified summary of the table, particularly of the general fund, so that members can understand kind of a high-level picture of the city's and EMID's finances. There is a discussion in the MSR about the dissolution potentially of EMID and a full merger with the city of Foster City. As I had mentioned, the original purpose of EMID was to provide those several municipal functions to an unincorporated area in anticipation of incorporation. So now the city of Foster City has been incorporated, the specific purpose of EMID has really been fulfilled. EMID bonds to finance major improvements needed for development of the city, and the last bond payment was made in 2007. EMID provides water and sewer services to the city of Foster City and to Mariners Island and San Mateo. And as I had mentioned, EMID is also the entity that receives the city's allocation of property tax and excess ERAF. The city began receiving revenues the other cities in California, but EMID was the one that levied taxes for services. So when Prop 13 occurred, that resulted in EMID receiving the property tax allocation for the city. In the past few years, there has been a discussion at the state level about reducing excess ERAF or changing it in some ways for cities and eliminating it for special districts. EMID is considered a special district, even though it is a subsidiary district of the city. And EMID was at risk of having its ERAF funds eliminated, even though it was a subsidiary to the city. If EMID was dissolved and merged with the city could then become the entity that receives the property tax funds and access ERAF funds, as well as becoming the successor agency of any agreements that EMID have in place. A full merger could result in long-term operational administrative cost savings, but they would need to be studied further. Currently, the city and EMID have not explored the potential of this merger. So two of the recommendations we have on this particular topic is one, exploring the future of a study, looking at efficiencies and savings about a merger. And then two, the consideration of inclusion of a simplified summary table of revenue and expenditures for both the city and EMID budgets and future budget documents. The City of Foster City and EMID are engaged heavily in activities to address hazard mitigation, particularly sea level rise and flooding within the city's jurisdiction. And LAFCo encourages the city and EMID to continue to work in that area and to work with partner agencies. So the recommendation to the commission is to open a public hearing, provide commissioner comments, and then direct the executive officer to schedule the final municipal service review for City of Foster City and EMID for a public hearing at the September 18th, 2024 commission meeting. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions of Rob?
I don't know if this is a question or a comment, but Foster City has been very active in projects to help with the impacts of sea level rise. And well, they have to because of their geography. And so on, I think it's page 28 of the report, it lists what they've done. But I think that we have I know we have a policy in our LAFCo policy book talking about sea level rise. And I think that there could be a sentence or two here that commends Foster City in taking these actions. And they've been proactive and that we should acknowledge that. And I would like to have that included in the report.
Certainly, thank you for that comment. I can make that correction and edit.
Any other comments from the board, questions? I will now open the public comment period.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I do not see any hands raised on Zoom or any in chambers at this time.
Such a post public comment period. Do we have a motion on item 6? Anybody?
I'll move the recommendation on the screen, directing the executive officer to schedule the final municipal service review for Foster City and the EMID
With the addition of.
for a public hearing. Again,
With the addition of the comment that Ann wants put in.
with the addition of Ann's comment, yes.
Okay.
Second.
Thank you. That was a motion by Commissioner Bigstick, seconded by Commissioner Draper. Commissioner Slocum,
Yes.
Commissioner Bigstick,
Aye.
Commissioner Draper,
Yes.
Commissioner Mueller,
Yes.
Commissioner Rarback,
Yes.
Commissioner Chang Karali.
Aye.
Thank you, Chairman. Motion carries.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to item 7. Broadmoor Protection District and LAFCo initiated dissolution process. Again, we go back to Rob.
Thank you, Chair Martin. So at the May 2024 LAFCo Commission meeting, the Commission directed staff to provide an overview of the LAFCo dissolution process and how that would kind of play out. And again, just for everyone's sake of kind of being familiar with the terms, as defined by the Cortese-Knox-Hirschberg Local Government Act, a dissolution means a disincorporation, extinguishment, or termination of the existence of a special district and the ending of all its corporate powers, except as the Commission, the LAFCo Commission, may otherwise provide pursuant to a specific term or conditions for the purposes of winding up the affairs of the district. The current status of the Broadmoor Police Protection District in LAFCo. As you recall from last month or 2 months ago, at the May 15th meeting, the LAFCo Commission adopted a municipal service review for the Broadmoor Police Protection District. The report highlighted that LAFCo had several areas of concern for BPPD, including fiscal health of the district and the ability to continue to provide police services to residents. Broadmoor PD has had significant budget deficits in 5 of the last 6 fiscal years. And these budget deficits have greatly reduced the district's fund balance, which has then impacted the financial health of the district. Excuse me for 1 second.
You want a minute?
No, I'm good now. Thank you. Broadmoor PD has made dramatic cuts to spending since the start of fiscal year 23-24 by eliminating 2 officer positions, eliminating some per diem officers, and moving other per diem officers into unpaid volunteer positions. These cuts have lowered the number of sworn officers to 7, a decrease from 9 this last year. In June of 2024, the Broadmoor Police Protection Commission approved a budget for fiscal year 24-25 with a proposed surplus of about $400,000, the first proposed surplus in several years. The district was also projected to have a surplus for 23-24, but that final number was only from April in their budget document, so it's unknown at this exact time what that surplus will be for ending actuals. On July 9th, the Broadmoor Police Protection District approved approves planning on a special tax on the November 2024 ballot. The typo on that slide, I apologize for that. And that is in line with one of the recommendations that we had in this, both the special study and the 2024 MSR was for the district to explore both ways to reduce cost or to enhance revenue. So backing up a little bit, on April of 2024, the district selected a consulting firm, MBS, to assist the district with developing a budget for a fiscal year and then the creation of a long-term fiscal plan and researching and analyzing a potential tax measure for the upcoming 2024 election. And then so the district then did take action to place a special partial tax on the 2024 ballot. And per the Broadmoor Police Protection District staff report that was on that item, the measure would be in place for 5 years and would raise approximately $700,000 in the first year if the measure did pass. This is a flow chart kind of showing the steps of dissolution and what that would look like. So we have initiation, whether that's by LAFCo, whether that district, or by another entity, or by members of the public. And there would be LAFCo hearings on that item and the review of the proposal. There'd be either approval of the item and dissolution, and then the conducting of the protest hearing. And much like we had today, when we had to then verify the results of that item for EPASD, you would waive the hearing or you would have disapproval of it. And then if you approve the item and you conducted the protest hearing, then if there's sufficient protest, you either order an election or terminate. And if there's less than sufficient protest, you would then order the approval of the item. So the general dissolution process is who can initiate that. The subject district or entity can do that by resolution. An outside agency, such as a county, city, or school district, can also do that by resolution. Registered voters or property owners can submit a petition for dissolution or for any other type of action, or LAFCo can initiate by resolution as well. LAFCo can initiate the dissolution if the action is consistent with a recommendation or determination that's been documented in a municipal service review or sphere of influence update. And LAFCo must hold a notice public hearing on the dissolution proposal. So what this item is here today is not an action to dissolve the district. It is a discussion, and we'll talk about some of the actions that come out of that, but this is not just a dissolution item. This is a step in understanding of what that process is before moving forward. The dissolution proposal, what that would need to include is a plan for service. And the plan for service would essentially state who would provide the service if the district was dissolved, how services would be financed, the impact of the dissolution on adjacent areas, and the ability of the successor agency to provide services within that affected area. There are two other things that LAFCo has to consider if it's a LAFCo initiated dissolution. Public service costs for the proposal that the commission is authorizing are likely to be less than or substantially similar to the costs of the alternative means of providing the service, and that a change of organization or reorganization is authorized by the commission to promote public access and accountability for community services, needs, and financial resources. Again, those two findings are only specific to a LAFCo initiated dissolution. For protest proceedings, if the dissolution was approved by the commission, then a protest must be held, and then the protest thresholds depend on who initiates the dissolution. And I know you've heard me talk about this before about the different thresholds. So for a LAFCo initiated action, the threshold is 10% of registered voters within the district, or 10% of landowners within the district owning at least 10% of the assessed value. For non-LAFCo initiated actions, the threshold is 25% of registered voters within the district, or 25% of the landowners within the district owning at least 25% of the assessed value. If the protest threshold is met, the commission shall order an election. If it's not met, or terminate the proceedings, depending on what the threshold is. If the threshold is not met, the commission shall issue a certificate of completion and complete the process. Wow. Excuse me. There is also, what we've talked about in the past, an SB 938 dissolution process, but that's as specific findings that have to be made that could increase the protest threshold to 25% for a LAFCO initiated dissolution. But the commission has to adopt an MSR for the agency and then make at least one of the following findings, basically, whether that's documented chronic service deficiencies, expenditure of public funds in an unlawful or reckless manner, failure to adhere to the Brown Act and public records requests, fail to hold minimum number of public meetings, fail to perform timely audits, or that recent audits show chronic issues and there's been no remedy to those actions. An SB 938 dissolution process requires a remediation period of at least 12 months. So if the commission decided to go down that path, you would have 12 months for the district to basically rectify those issues that LAFCO has identified. And then at the end of the remediation period, based on the district actions, the commission may either adopt a resolution to dissolve the district in accordance with the noted areas above, or rescind the notice of intent to dissolve the district. Again, those both occur at public hearings. Considerations of specifically a LAFCO initiated dissolution for an agency is the successor agency and the plan for service. So if a district was to dissolve and the service area of the district was located solely in the unincorporated area, then the county is a successor agency. In addition, LAFCO would need to work with the successor agency to develop a plan for service, and that could include either the formation of a different type of agency, like a county service area, or a different type of district. And the plan for service also has to address liabilities of the district, if there are any, to ensure there's no negative fiscal impact to the general public, and that funds will be sufficient to provide services and pay for those liabilities. So it needs cooperation also with the entity that is going to be providing that service to be able to put a plan together to understand both from a financial standpoint, what that would entail, and then from an actual service delivery standpoint of what that would entail. Regarding protest thresholds, again, from a LAFCO initiated dissolution, there is a lower protest threshold of 10% compared to a non-LAFCO initiated dissolution of 25%. So there's unfortunately a disadvantage for LAFCO to initiate on that type of action. For election costs, and again, that also goes down to the costs for LAFCO. There's while an election is not required in a dissolution process, if the appropriate threshold was met to force election, the agency that initiates the dissolution is responsible for the costs holding the election. So if LAFCO initiates, then LAFCO is responsible for the cost. In conversations with the County of San Mateo Elections Office, if a measure related to the Broadmoor Police Protection District was to be placed on a ballot of a regularly scheduled election, the cost would range between $25,000 to $30,000. And if that measure was then on a special election ballot, the cost is estimated to be between $70,000 to $84,000 just for the election costs. For dissolution timeline estimates, for a LAFCO initiated dissolution, it's approximately it'd probably be 12 months to have a plan for service, to be able to work with the successor agency and the agencies that are going to provide the service of that district. And then that would require the applicable public hearings, public notices to the members of the community, and other outreach that we would do. It's likely that the dissolution would then have an impact on the existing LAFCO work plan. Because it would require both LAFCO staff and legal counsel to prepare a plan for service, conduct a financial analysis, draft required resolutions, and prepare a public workshop and hearings. Staff time would need to be reallocated to address those tasks. As agency and public initiated LAFCO applications have statutory timelines, the adopted LAFCO work plan item that would be most impacted would be municipal service reviews. And then I have down here costs to LAFCO. So we have both the election costs, and if there was a dissolution that was being put in place, it's likely that a consultant would be required to assist LAFCO regarding the financial aspects, fiscal aspects of a plan for service. And LAFCO estimate those costs to range from $15,000 to $30,000. And if the commission also desired to maintain the existing adopted work program for the MSRs, a consultant would be needed to augment staff time to conduct those MSRs, and that could cost between $20,000 to $40,000 in estimated cost. So that's how we end up with a range of, on the low end of just paying for the election, to $40,000, and a high end of paying for a special election with the various consultants and legal costs at $154,000. In review of actions within San Mateo County and other actions within the state, in the last 20 years, there's only been 2 district dissolutions within LAFCO, within San Mateo. That was the Skyline County Water District in 2009 and Los Trincos County Water District in 2015. And both of those were initiated by the district's respective boards. LAFCO initiated dissolutions are not very common. I have reviewed, other actions from similar LAFCOs across the state, and with the exception of dissolutions of districts that they don't provide any service and they fall under a law that talks about inactive special districts. There has been those dissolutions, but not many active districts. Contra Costa LAFCO is currently reviewing a proposal for a LAFCO initiated dissolution of county service area, but that is still on hold. We did receive 3 public comments related to this item. In a letter dated July 15th from Andrea Hall, she expressed concerns regarding the recently passed resolution to place a special tax on the November ballot and her continuing concerns about transparency and fiscal mismanagement at the Broadmoor Police Protection District. Paul Davis is the attorney for Broadmoor Police Protection District, and he sent in a letter responding to a previous letter from Andrea Hall regarding Social Security liability. And then earlier today, John Aguirre sent in a letter of support for the Broadmoor Police Protection District and against the LAFCo initially dissolution of the district. So the recommended action to the commission is to receive the report, and then if desired, the commission can take can direct staff to prepare an application for the dissolution of Broadmoor Police Protection District, to produce follow-up reports or additional studies on the district, or to take no additional action related to the Broadmoor Police Protection District at this time. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Rob, for that report. Do any of the commissioners have questions for Rob? Someone? The way I read this, I want to make sure that I understand exactly what affirming this would be. Are you asking us to okay you to start this process? Is that where we're at right now?
No. So what the direction, what the recommended action is to the commission is one of the options the commission could take, if it's so desired, is to direct staff to prepare an application.
Right.
The commission could also say, that's not an option that we would like to pursue. We would like to see additional follow-up or reports, like kind of what we have been doing, or we would like to see no additional action at this time.
Okay. But he understands it. We're still taking questions. Yeah. Okay. And now I'll open the public comment period for, I forgot what item it is, item 6. It's item 7. Okay. Oh, yeah, that's right.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We currently do not have any hands raised on Zoom, but we did receive one for a speaker in chambers, Mr. John Aguirre.
Hey, good afternoon. I'd like to say thank you to the commission, Madam Chairperson, and Mr. Fox, and Mr. Bartoli. I really do appreciate the time the commission takes to come out and see Broadmoor, witness our public meetings, and the police districts. I think it's fundamentally important that you actually get some physical, hands-on perspectives from people. I get a much better feel of the community than anything else. So thank you folks that have taken the time. Really, really, really appreciate that. This is a very large equation. There's a lot that goes into it, right? As far as where do you want to go, how do you proceed? I think the human element, pretty big portion of the equation. It's not the equation. In a balanced equation, you have a good result. I don't know how to get that to happen. I mean, we have our meetings. It's very hard for a lot of work. We have to do it, but the sense of public safety, feeling safe within our own homes, feeling safe within our community is very, very, very important. A lot of big numbers like that, but the fact that we've taken as many steps as we have, I've seen a lot more transparency, I've seen a lot more initiative, and I've seen a lot from the police commission and the department and the chief. I really think that if we can get that ballot initiative on the November ballot, actually let the people of Broadmoor, who I believe should ultimately decide the fate of the Broadmoor Police Department, as opposed to an outside agency or a county agency, is very, very critical. When we see those results from that election, I think that will go a very, very long will go very far towards helping guide you folks as to the steps that we should take. If we have overwhelming support, which with my, again, face-to-face conversations is what I feel we have out there.
Thank you.
You gonna wrap it up?
Oh, wow, that was fast. Anyway, I think we should suspend dissolution proceedings until the time of the election. We're in July, that's in November. Let the people speak. The
Okay.
will of the folks should dictate the will of.
Understood. Thank
I
you for your
appreciate it.
comments.
Thank you so much for your time.
We have another speaker. Chief Conley.
Good afternoon, members of the commission. Chief Mike Conley, Broadmoor Police Protection District Special Manager and Chief of Police. I too would like to echo thanks to the commissioners who have taken out of their time to attend our commission meetings. It is part of your commitment that you stated early on last year that you wanted to become more aware and educated on what transpires in our commission. So that's greatly appreciated. Since I've been back 18 months now. There's been one discussion after another, sometimes very emotional, sometimes not so emotional. But every suggestion that LAFCo has made and recommendation has been followed. Consulted with outside consultants, experts. You've worked with the county. The county has had a report issued to them by Mr. Drew Corbett. We took some of his recommendations to us and implemented them with our last budget. And even going into that last budget cycle, we had already identified that we were taking aggressive measures to make sure that we have reserves. So we have been following the guidance of this commission. Likewise, we have submitted the proper ballot measure to the Department of Elections for November's election, right? National election expecting a large turnout. That has happened. The assignment of the ballot measure will come on August 15th. So every recommendation you've made, we have followed. I think it's only fair that we table, or that you table, this discussion about any dissolution until after the voters have had a choice to make their voices heard at the ballot. Then we can take this discussion up. One thing that Director Bartoli didn't mention is that the legal costs associated for a LAFCo initiated dissolution is on top of the far end of that spectrum, $154,000. As I stand here from the commission, I can assure you at this particular juncture, they will not initiate that dissolution process. They will not be requesting dissolution. So outside of any other entity, as was outlined in the process, the LAFCo initiated process. I think.
Thank you. Any other speakers, Clerk?
There are no other speakers at this time.
Okay. No discussion.
I've been back and forth on this item in my mind. I've given it a lot of thought. And the commission has detailed a lot of things that need to be done, and I appreciate the things that have been done. But I do take to heart the comment that there's an item on the ballot coming up, and I don't think I want to put this issue to go forward at this time while there's a pending ballot measure. And that's just my feeling right now. Like I said, I've had many different thoughts about this, but right now that's where I am. And so I would say we take no additional action at this time, and we hear what goes on and learn as the election happens. So that's my comment, and that's where I am right now.
Okay. Harvey?
LAFCo's responsibility is to make sure that we have the kind of special districts that are work for the people, that are transparent, that are fiscally sound, and in the case of Broadmoor Police District, that actually provide enough public service. and public safety. As I have said before, and I've watched the last 10 years of what's gone on in Broadmoor, I think it's the responsible action of LAFCO to initiate dissolution procedures. I understand it might cost 150 grand, but I think that's still worth it in terms of what we could offer for public safety in the district. So I've thought about this. I understand it. I know that it's unusual for a LAFCO to initiate this sort of dissolution, but I am for doing that as the responsible action of this commission. Thank you.
Scarlett?
Thank you. So thank you, Chief. I actually attended the last meeting when y'all voted on the parcel tax. And I appreciate the fact that y'all have followed our recommendations. I really do. And I have seen that, and I think it's good. I think that your residents have seen it too. I'm kind of inclined to go with what Ann is saying because your board has already voted for moving forward. However, I do think that right now, what you're not, you've done everything in terms of the financial things that, things that we've outlined as potentially concerning. But what I saw at the meeting, as you know, Chief, is the resolution, I don't think was very clear. I'm not sure the board knew what it was voting on in terms of the kind of tax you were voting for, whether it's a uniform or a non-uniform tax, right? And I'm sure that that's been resolved. But I think that your just simple little things like your staff report, there wasn't a real staff report. Your staff report was the consultant's presentation and a resolution, as if the resolution that you wanted the outcome to be was the actual outcome, instead of, having the board actually really take a look and consider all of the pros and cons. So, I mean, those little things are very administrative, but I think that they make for good government and transparency. I mean, and I'm generally a financial person, and did you vote for a uniform or non-uniform parcel tax?
Yes.
I mean, I think you voted for a non-uniform based on your resolution, but then you had mentioned it was a uniform to me.
Correct. So next morning, in fact, that night, our council had reached out to two of their legal representatives and colleagues who said, because Broadmoor Police Department is a special district, it doesn't need to be identified in that resolution. That
But
was their
I'm not
legal
even sure.
interpretation.
But I'm not even sure. Anyway, I'm not even sure your public knows. But anyway, my whole thing is to make things clearer,
I
right?
understand that.
So it's clear what the residents are signing on to. And so I guess my whole thing is, while I appreciate everything that y'all are doing, LAFCO, this commission can't be the consultant to tell you what to do. So I don't know how you train your board members to be, more, I don't know, like in terms of from the administrative end. I mean, I think there are ways to improve. I think you have time if this commission says, yeah, let's wait until the parcel tax election is done, which is November. It's only a few months. But I think that there are lots of things that you need to do to make sure your public knows exactly what's happening. Because I don't think that they knew what y'all were voting for. I didn't know.
Right, should I?
Yes.
I'm confused as to what a non-uniform and are you
So-
talking about what you're wearing, a uniform?
No.
Okay.
This
What do
is,
you-
I'm
what
sorry,
is it?
Katie, this is what the consultant's report said. It was there are two different types of parcel taxes.
Okay,
And it wasn't very clear to me when I was reading the resolution. So all I'm saying is there just needs to be more clarity if you really want transparency. And that should come in the form of a staff report, which wasn't there.
okay,
The staff report was basically the consultant's report and the resolution that was already a done deal, right? Instead of, saying, here are the choices, here are the blanks, and you vote, and then the clerk or the chief public administrator fills in the actual vote, right?
Right.
So it's those little things, but those are good government issues. But like I said, I think that this commission can't be like the consultant trying to advise them all the time. So, but I do appreciate everything that you've done.
It was essentially written in legalese And so some of these can be ambiguous to people that are not versed in those terminologies.
Yeah.
And so to Commissioner Crowley's point, without understanding the nuances of that resolution
Right.
and the legal expertise that went into it, there can be left with ambiguity. Are we doing one or the other? So I appreciate that.
Has that been resolved?
Well, again, we reached out to legal counsel, not our legal counsel, external legal counsel,
Okay,
who said that that was not needed in either way, and that special district can go either direction. And it's not really needed.
But what did the board vote for?
I believe was the official, what they believe was the official. However,
what
our
was it
council
that
did go
you-
back,
Okay,
our district council did go back and advise the board members of what the external legal counsel had said.
what did the board vote for?
I don't. That night, I believe.
I
the
thought it was
official-
the non-uniform.
the uniform, I believe it was.
Okay, because okay. I mean, that's fine. I just, whatever the board anyway, so I'm kind of inclined to go with Andy's, just give it a few months to see. I mean, the residents, have their representative and they voted for the tax to go on the parcel, on the ballot. And I'm not even sure this commission has actually even discussed who the successor agency might be. And I think, so I would want that robust discussion before we, move forward with any kind of dissolution at this time. And, November is just right around the corner anyway.
Well, let me be clear. I don't think everything's been done. Maybe
I agree.
some things have been done, but I keep going on the website just like somebody could go on the LAFCo website and say, what's coming up? What's the staff report? And I can't find anything. So if I was a citizen out in Broadmoor, I would have no idea what was going on.
Right.
And I think it's a huge problem. But that's not why. Do I think all the problems have been resolved? No. But we're in a particular spot here where something's on the election. And I'm just saying, at this moment, I don't want to get involved in the way of that. But there's a lot of improvement that needs to come with transparency and even questions like what happened is critical, because and then the minutes and everything. And if you want to look at some other agencies, it's often easy to find out. I know when I worked for some jurisdictions, we had to have the full staff report on the website 10 days in advance of the hearing, so that any public member could have those documents. And so that's commonplace. And so and I can't even find it the day before. I can find the agenda, but not the staff report. So I'm just saying I don't need a response on that. I'm saying there's a lot of activity that needs to be improved. And but right now there was this action to put something on the ballot, and I'm just saying, let us wait to see the outcome of that. That's just my thought.
That's Ryan.
Within a month, within less than a month, the new website will be up and operational, addressing all those issues.
okay.
That's Ryan too.
Now,
Yeah,
this end,
thank you.
Commissioner Slogan?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Is this on? Yeah, I'm in favor of the Draper motion. As a former registrar of voters, I'm just concerned about the appearance of interfering with an election, with the conduct of an election, because our action might be viewed by voters as being prejudicial. So I'm for totally waiting until after the election. In terms of all this work, yes, I totally agree with everything that's been said. But I don't want to push that issue right now. Period.
Thought that was very well spoken. And I think that vote will tell a story, and in what form LAFCO is best suited to work with the Broadmoor Police Protection District going forward after that vote is taken. Thank you.
The question, so in prior hearings, I've asked, and I still don't have an answer, but I think you said today it's only a 5-year bond. So after 5 years, 5-year tax,
That's correct.
5-year tax.
That's correct.
Okay. So I don't have to worry about what happens to it if you guys were to still dissolve with the taxpayers. So imagine you get, I'll be just candid, like one of the big concerns that we've had in prior meetings that I've had is that I realize you're putting this tax on the ballot. You've had serious fiscal problems. Imagine you pass the tax and you continue to have serious fiscal problems as you ramp up again because of the lack of institutional controls that were in place prior. So I've asked before, are the taxpayers going to be on the hook for paying that tax should the district choose to dissolve?
Well, that's a complicated answer. I think the short answer would probably be yes. I mean, I don't see how somebody's gonna have to pay somewhere down the line. So I can't answer your question in a straight yes or no response without going into detail either way, and I'm ill prepared to do that right now.
Okay.
What I can tell you is that in the interim of these different meetings, with the inclusion of NBS having been brought on as consultant, there's been pretty significant conversation and research that shows that there's been some significant neglect in the past. Speaking to Mr. Arbach's concern about the budget. That could address our budget significantly and the future. We've never had this conversation yet, but I can't go into detail about that now. It sounds very ambiguous, but there are discussions that are happening.
All right. So I'll agree with my colleagues, but I have real concerns, and my concerns are the discussion that you had with Ms. Corrali about the way your board meeting was conducted to just put the tax on the ballot is incredibly problematic for me. About that there was no staff report, that people didn't know what they were voting for. Well,
So we had 2 outreach meetings.
no, but let me finish. That is ripe for a situation where, and what was mentioned, how there's no agenda. That is ripe for a situation where that's just ripe for a situation that could create wrongdoing. If you're not publishing your agendas, and if you're just relying on staff reports in those meetings, you're just relying on consultants' reports, and then afterwards, council's having to go and clarify to people what they voted for. You create a condition that an administrator can go ahead and work within the margins of that. And frankly, it sounds like there have been allegations what's happened in the past in this district.
Sir, it was agendized, it was published, and it was published ahead of time.
Okay. Okay. Well,
Speaking without knowledge.
well, I'm speaking with what people have shared in this meeting.
No, I was saying, I saw it on the agenda, but there was no staff. I didn't see any staff report. And so that on the.
So look, sir, wait, let me finish. I'm going to vote to go ahead, and I'm going to join my colleagues in voting. But what I'm saying is when I'm hearing all of this and the back and forth, I don't have a lot of confidence. So maybe I'm wrong. Maybe what my colleagues have shared here today are wrong. But my suggestion is if that's the impression of the LAFCo board today, it needs to be cleaned up further. It just does.
I
So
understand your concerns.
thank you.
Okay.
So do you want a motion? Keith?
I haven't made my comments
Oh,
yet.
sorry. Okay.
I agree with my colleagues that I think that there is kind of an inherent conflict of interest for this board if we pursue this and try to influence people one way or the other. But I'm not willing to just let it go forever. Clerk, when is our first meeting in January or in 2025?
Okay. Do we have that set?
It would be January 15th.
January 15?
We do meet in November, and we would meet on November 20th.
Is
Which
that
would be-
after the election?
That would be after the election, yeah.
Yeah,
We probably
okay.
won't still have the certified results by November 20th, but we'll have an idea.
I would like it calendared for the November meeting to see. And I would encourage you to, once again, contact somebody else who has a special district and see how they run a district, how the meeting notes are made, how things are agendized, when they have to go out. There are specific rules from the Brown Act that require you to send out agendas at least 7 days ahead of the meeting.
72 hours.
Well, ours are always over a weekend, so it's 7 days.
Typically on a Friday. And worst case scenario is a Saturday. That is like clock.
I think you'll get more attendance if you post them and make sure that people know that there's a meeting coming up a little bit more in advance, especially when you're now going to be asking them for money. Okay.
So
So
can I make one last comment? My problem isn't your notice requirement right now because I did see it on the agenda, but the paperwork, the actual staff report, you didn't even have that. And I took a physical copy at the meeting. And like I said, it was just the consultant report and the resolution, but there should be a staff report. So I just felt like the board, is obviously interested in having the parcel tax pass, but it's not enough to just, here's the only choice you have. A staff report should give you the choices, the alternatives. That's what an effective staff report does. The consultant's report is not a staff report. It's, what they're hired to do. So anyway,
The options were presented at the previous meeting.
but it wasn't in a staff report for the meeting that the board was deciding on the parcel tax, whether or not to put it on the ballot. I didn't, maybe I missed it, but I got your physical packet. Well, I got your packet at the meeting. And that's all I saw. And we went over the resolution because I get it was legalese, but I've been reading legalese financial stuff for my entire professional career. And I thought it was one way, one type of tax. Anyway, the point is that there needs to be clarity. That's all I'm saying. And that the notice is fine. It should be better. It shouldn't be the minimal standard. But I think the staff report, and unless I missed it, I didn't see it in the actual physical packet, which I got that night.
I'd like to make a motion that
Thank
we
you, Ann.
continue this until our November meeting.
Yeah, or to take no additional.
No take condition at this time and continue it till our November
Okay,
meeting.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you. That was a motion by Commissioner Draper, seconded by Commissioner Chan-Carolli. Commissioner Slocum?
Yes.
Commissioner Bigson?
Aye.
Commissioner Draper?
Yes.
Commissioner Robert?
Yes.
Commissioner Chan-Carolli?
Aye.
And I'd also like to note for the record that Commissioner Mueller stepped out at 4:16 p.m. today.
Thank you.
And, Chair Martin? Oh, sorry, finishing the roll.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion carries.
Okay, moving on to item 8, legislative report. Rob?
Thank you, Chair. Let me pull back my notes up here. I'll brief report. As of July 9th, Cal LAFCo is tracking 10 bills, excuse me. The annual omnibus bill for Cal LAFCo was signed by the governor and chaptered on July 2nd. And then there's another item related to indemnification for LAFCo that San Mateo LAFCo has sent a letter on in support of that bill. And this bill is currently waiting a third reading in the assembly, and there's no date for that third reading as of yet. There's one other item that was in there, and that has to do with consolidations of wastewater systems, and that bill is currently in the suspense file and appropriations. And happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Okay, thank you. Moving on to item 9. I think this
So so we have 4 items under item 9 under Cal LAFCo. And item 9A is that registration now is open for the 2024 Cal LAFCo annual conference, and that will be held in October on the 16th to the 18th at Fish Camp just outside of Yosemite. There's a registration form enclosed in the packet, and you can also register online. And the deadline for early bird registration is July 31st. As of July 10th, Commissioners Martin, Mueller, Chincarelli, and Draper have all stated they wish to attend the conferences. And please let me know at your earliest convenience if you'd like to attend, and then we can complete the forms so that we can have everything sent to LAFCo by that July 31st deadline, so we have a little bit of a reduction in our fees. Anyone has any additional comments on that one? If not, I'll move on to, was there a comment?
Just
Currently, we
very,
do have a comment.
very briefly, the only reason why I haven't expressed interest is because I'll be going to a different conference at that exact same time in Southern California. But for those who haven't decided to sign up, we all have a lot going on. It's a wonderful opportunity, and it's going to be in a beautiful location this year. So I just wanted to urge my fellows to tighten the bonds.
Related to the item 9A for CalAFCO has now also announced that nominations are open for its 25 board of directors, and that recruitment committee is accepting nominations for a county member and a district member in the coastal region, which and that's the region that San Mateo LAFCO is assigned to. The elections would be conducted during the CalAFCO annual conference on October 17th. And not if there is to be a nomination, that is due by Monday, September 16th, and it requires the nomination of the commission and then the submittal of the attached candidate resume form.
Okay, I want to comment on that. I was approached by one of our members who is interested in that position.
That would be the other special district rep, right?
That would be not me. It would be Virginia. How do we go about nominating her? And this is my first go on this kind of thing, Rob. How do we do it?
So for that particular item, let me make sure I'm reading. I'm going to pull up the packet here, but I believe we can just do that by a motion.
Okay.
And then I believe I can work with Virginia on completing the nomination packet to make sure that I have all of her information correct.
Okay.
But I think let's confirm.
While you're doing that, should we have her make a campaign speech here?
No, please.
Let me just be very clear, though, it is a special district rep for the region, the
Yeah.
coastal region. And I'd be honored to receive the nomination from this commission.
And yes, it can be done just by motion, and then I would work. There are some things that I can just fill out from an action standpoint, and there would be other items that I would work with Commissioner Chincarelli on to complete for her background and resume items that are a part of that nomination packet.
Okay, well,
I move to nominate Commissioner Chincarelli.
Second.
Thank you. That was a motion by Commissioner Rohrbach, seconded by Commissioner Slocum. Commissioner Basic,
Aye.
Commissioner Draper,
Yes.
Commissioner Rohrbach,
Yes.
Commissioner Chair Martin.
yes,
Thank you, Chair. That motion carries.
you're not going to vote for yourself.
Oh.
Sorry.
She gets to vote
I-
first.
Commissioner,
Thank you.
Commissioner Chincarelli.
Thank you. I'm honored. Thank you so much. And Commissioner Slocum.
Oh,
You didn't vote.
You did. It's first. It was first.
So
Yeah.
you were?
Yes. Okay, next item, Rob.
That is item 9C, and that is as part of the CalAFCO conference, as mentioned, and we'll talk about here later about the board of directors. They'll be having their election, and for each LAFCO at that CalAFCO meeting is entitled to one vote for the board of election, and other business members for the membership. And CalAFCO bylaws require that the member LAFCOs designate their delegate in writing, such as a minute order, prior to the annual meeting, and delegates may either be a commissioner or the executive officer. And as I had mentioned previously, Commissioners Martin, Draper, Mueller, and Chinkarelli have expressed interest in attending. I'll also be in attendance. And so in previous years, we can select up to we have one primary voting member and 2 alternates. In previous years, the executive officer has been designated as like as the 3rd alternate, along with another commissioner, just in case the voting member has not been able to attend. And in years where the chair has attended the conference, the chair has been designated as the voting delegate with those other alternates then. So we would be asking for delegation of who the voting member, the primary voting member is, and then the 2 alternates.
As I understand, has it been in the past? It's been the chair. If the chair.
It has been the chair, yes.
So let's
I'm
go.
going.
Yeah,
Okay.
Do we nominate?
And you guys are going to be the alternates?
Sure.
That's
So
fine.
do you need a motion for that, Rob? And keep looking at Rob over there and he's on.
I know it. Yeah,
I'm
I
sorry.
understand.
So I'll make a motion to have Commissioner or Chair Martin to be the voting delegate and for Chair Draper and myself, I think. Is that right? Kate?
As the alternates.
Yes.
Perfect.
I'll second.
Thank you. That was a motion by Commissioner Chinkarelli, seconded by Commissioner Rebecca. Commissioner Slocum,
Yes.
Commissioner Big Stick,
Aye.
Commissioner Draper,
Yes.
Commissioner Rebecca,
Yes.
Commissioner Chinkarelli,
Aye.
Chair Martin.
Yes,
Thank you. Motion carries.
thank you. Rob?
Thank you. And item 9D is just informational only. It's the LAFCo newsletter for May 2024 that you can peruse through at your own leisure.
Thank you. Okay, item 10.
Item 10, before we go into closed session, very briefly, is that this will be unless we have a special meeting next month, early next month, this will be the last meeting in these board chambers. In the new board chambers for the county supervisors, will be opening up in August. And so we'll be able to utilize those chambers in September. They're in the brand new building over at county. I think it's County Building Office 500 is I think the address. So we will be saying goodbye to these chambers and be moving into the new chambers for our commission meeting starting on our September 18th LAFCo meeting. And so once we get an understanding of how we enter the building, all those kinds of things, we'll let you know about if there's anything that's changed. The parking will not change for the commissioners, but if there's any other special circumstances in the getting into the board chamber space, I will let you know ahead of time.
Thank you. All right, we will recess for a closed meeting. I guess we're going to go over there, and we'll be back as soon as we can.
Want to change the slide back to? Oh, okay, leave that up then, that's fine.
Clerk, could you help us by putting up the recommendation just as a starting point so that we will have that for the public and everybody else?
Madam Chair, with your permission, do you want me to make the report out of closed session?
Yep, yes.
Thank you. The commission met in closed session to discuss one item of pending litigation identified on the agenda. There was no reportable action taken.
All right, we have one last task. And it is item 4, correct? Item 4,
So we're taking it off the table.
taking it off the table.
We've had the public hearing and
Public hearing has been closed and I need a motion.
Madam Chair, I would like to make the motion to approve San Mateo County San Mateo County LAFCO Resolution 1325 and ordering the establishment of the East Palo Alto Sanitary District as a subsidiary district of the city of East Palo Alto without an election, subject to the terms and conditions of LAFCO Resolution 1312.
Second.
Thank you. That was a motion by Commissioner Slocum, seconded by Commissioner Warbeck.
No discussion. Would you please call the roll?
Thank you. Commissioner Slocum,
Yes.
Commissioner Bixby,
Aye.
Commissioner Draper,
yes.
Commissioner Warbeck,
Yes.
Commissioner Chen Corrali,
Aye.
Chair Martin.
Aye.
Thank you, Chair. Motion carries.
Thank you. Unless there's other business that needs to come before us, we are adjourned at 4:45.